All right, let's talk about Sam Howell, Washington Commanders quarterback, who we were all pretty excited to see coming into this season. What's he going to do? I was excited to see what he was going to do against a good defense against Buffalo after beating up on some, not the best competition. Arizona and Denver goes up to a high level of competition right here against Buffalo, and it does not go particularly well. 4 interceptions on the day. Let's talk about some of them and some other plays and what went wrong. Starting off with this play. So early on in the game, it is worth mentioning the Commanders defense actually played pretty well in this one. I know the final score is very lopsided, but the Commanders defense kept them in this game for a very long time. And really it's kind of one of those situations where, like, if you're Washington, these are the errors you wanted to avoid. You're only down 3-0 here, 3rd and 19. You're on the outside of field goal range. Gain some yards. Kick a field goal. Sure, if something's open down the field, try and take it, but don't take a risk here. You see on the screen, the route concept and the way that this play could work and could get you a first down very far down the field. But again, if it's not open, don't force the issue. That's my opinion here. As you see, Howell takes the snap. There are checkdowns open. Howell passes up those checkdowns to throw it down the field, and that ended up not being as open as he thought it was. I think he just thought he could make this throw. I think he thought that this was an opportunity where he could make this happen. This is kind of a constant thing that young players have to learn is, the reality is NFL players are just better at getting to the ball than you realize. Because in college, it's just such a disparity. I mean, these are, think about college athletes are some of the best athletes in the world. The NFL athletes are the 1% of those athletes. So, like, you're just dealing with, that's everybody in the NFL. And, this is a good defensive play, but NFL players make good defensive plays. That ball gets intercepted right there. And again, that's costly. You could have tied the game up, sort of towards the end of the first quarter. Instead, you come away with nothing. I get the appeal of trying to get touchdowns. I really do, but this is a one that I think it's a learning experience for me. I think that's kind of the best way I would phrase it. Going over here, this was another thing that we just saw too much of, and it might just be, Buffalo's defense might just be good. Like, I think that kind of is something that I felt like watching this game a lot was just a lot of good defenders here for Buffalo. Again, 3rd down and 9 situation, man coverage across the board. Watch how when Howell takes the snap, you're going to see right here, I've paused it, this is right around when he is starting to scramble out. And we're not quite at 2.5 seconds, but we're almost there. At the end of the day, I'd rather a quarterback kind of bail out a little bit too early than a little bit too late. But also, we don't see the whole field right now, but the 3 players we are seeing, not open at all. So yeah, trying to scramble and see if you can make something happen that way, I would say is the right play. A defender kind of comes out of nowhere and is able to sack Sam Howell, and that's kind of the issue. It's like guys aren't getting open and the line's not blocking long enough to be able to make something happen. And, when you have those two combinations, it's going to be tough for a quarterback to succeed. And again, is it because the Washington Commanders are just a garbage team and they have no talent around Howell? No, they do have talent around Howell, for sure. But there's also some mismatches when you're playing a good defense, and Buffalo is a good defense, and they were able to me, this said more about Buffalo being good than Washington being bad, but it still made it a tough situation for Howell. Like this one's another one where it's going to be a 3rd down and 12 right here. So, okay, a play where you don't expect them to convert. And again, look at the scoreboard, 30-0 at this point. The game's basically over. So I'm not going to crush anyone for what you do in a situation like this, but it's just a good example of kind of what was going wrong, I think. Watch as Howell once again takes a snap, looks downfield. We're a little over 2.5 seconds into the play. No one's open. Pressure's coming. What do? Howell is going to step up in the pocket and just take a sack, which I would still say that is a negative from Howell. He needs to not take those sacks. He needs to get better at learning to throw the ball away, figuring out ways to minimize damage. That's definitely, again, a common young player thing is trying to turn every play into a positive at the college level. It's a lot easier to turn most plays into positives than at the NFL level. Usually the best quarterbacks are the ones that will throw the ball away, even on a 3rd down, because it's better than getting sacked than getting nothing. On this play, though, I don't really have an issue with him trying to make something happen. Again, you're down 30-0, but it's just a microcosm of what happened the entire game. This one, though, let's go over here. This is back when it was still competitive, 13-0, late in the second quarter. So, okay, you're down a bit, but, 2 touchdowns, you're back in it. You're taking the lead. Like, It's not over by any means. And the way this concept works, it's man coverage once again that the Bills are in. So for Washington, I mean, you look at the halfback and how far the safety would have to cover to hit him. Yeah, that's a reasonable place to look. Howell takes the snap and does wait a little bit, and there is now pressure, so he's going to have to get it over the 57 there for Buffalo, the blitzing player, and then try to get it to his halfback. And I think this is another example of him not really realizing how good NFL players are, kind of expecting the NFL player for Buffalo to, not get over there in time. I think that's my guess here. Because watch how much air he puts under that football. I mean, that's an easy interception at the NFL level. It's just an example of listen, if you're going to make these throws, every throw you make in the NFL has to be quick. You have to get it out in a hurry every single time, even if it feels like a pretty good scenario, and Howell just didn't. We'll talk about one more interception. I didn't talk about all of them, but three out of the four, he did throw an interception in every quarter. Not sure how often that has happened, but zone coverage gonna be Tre'Davious White, who does look back. Tre'Davious White had some injury issues and wasn't quite as good these past couple of years. Has looked very good since rejoining the Buffalo Bills this season. Joined them late last year, didn't look great, but this year has looked a lot better, which is cool to see. But anyways, Curtis Samuel's running around. It's going to try and get towards the sideline there. As you see, Howell takes the snap. He is going to look in that direction. He fires in that direction and was hit a little bit, which might have caused the ball to be, slowed down a little bit. And to be honest, the arm talent is something that, I think what we talked about with Howell coming out of college was a lot of the stuff he did seems like it wouldn't work at the NFL level, but it worked so well at the college level, it was kind of worth taking a flyer draft pick on. But this is kind of where you see it, where if he had incredible arm talent, maybe he's able to throw a bullet pass in there, and Samuel is able to kind of box out Tre'Davious White here. Hung up a little bit, and I would also say it's just a little bit late right here. You got to throw the ball earlier if you're not going to throw the ball harder. And as you see, White is the one who's able to come down with the football. Really good stuff there from Tre'Davious White, but, disappointing stuff, I think, from Sam Howell. It was just a disappointing game. And again, you don't expect Sam Howell to come in and look like a superstar every single game. You just don't. I liked what I saw from Sam Howell through 2 weeks. It wasn't against a high level of competition. Apparently, the Broncos defense is the worst defense in football. I didn't realize that when I made my evaluation, so that maybe changes it a little bit. I still don't think Arizona is great, but I still thought that, I always kind of say, and I think it's true, that, listen, you can evaluate a player given the circumstance. Even in this game, it was a tough circumstance. That's factored in, and he also had a bad game. Also, he was in a good situation in the first 2 weeks and also had good games. It's not as simple. I don't just look at the box score stats and then make my decision. I watch the tape, and at the end of the day, if your tape is good, if you're making the throws, you're making the throws. If you're making mistakes, you're making mistakes. So, he's got to cut down on the mistakes, kind of a wake-up call. And, if he's a good enough player, he will be able to rebound nicely in future weeks. They play Philadelphia next week, so that's a real test. But then you have, it eases up a little bit. You have Chicago, you have Atlanta, you have the Giants coming up. So, you maybe, hopefully another real test against the Eagles. If you look solid, then maybe you can, rebound nicely with a couple easier games after that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Howell. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.